Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Alright, to kick things off, we're talking about Stop Killing Games. Now, we've talked about Stop Killing Games quite a bit on this channel as it's gained more and more momentum recently. Anyways, we talked about it in yesterday's video saying it was probably going to surpass 1 million signatures, and now it officially has. They're actually a lot closer to 1.1 million and looking for more. On top of that, the UK specific petition has blown past 100,000 signatures and is currently sitting at 152,000 signatures. And I'm curious to see where this one goes as well. Overall, I'd say this is a huge milestone for the initiative, but there is still quite a ways to go. I mean, this petition is just one step. It's got to get in front of Parliament. Parliament has to talk about it and debate on it, and it should hopefully go somewhere. Raising awareness is massive, and I'm really hoping here that this is taken seriously. Accursed Farms has put out a new video talking about the entire situation and the success of the campaign overall, but they are worried about possible spoofing campaigns to boost those signature numbers. I mean, they jumped radically in the last few days, in the last week or so. Now, some of that may have been because of big channels like PewDiePie promoting it. Hopefully there are no spoof signatures, or hopefully if there are, it's just a very small percentage, but it also stresses the importance of still getting signatures on that petition. In the event that any of them are thrown away, hopefully there's still enough there to keep it above the goals. Now, on top of all of this, not surprisingly, there is some controversy with the Stop Killing Games initiative and in some very weird places. This has been talked about quite a bit, and maybe not this statement specifically, but just Pirate Software versus Stop Killing Games, or Pirate Software versus Accursed Farms. There's been a lot of conversation surrounding that. There's been some very big content creators posting commentary surrounding the issue. For example, Moist Critical or Penguin Zero, Hasman Gold, Some Ordinary Gamers, and even more. And they've talked about comments from Pirate Software. And I guess Pirate Software's comments have kind of villainized them and, well, resulted in some pretty big repercussions. So here's a recent tweet from Pirate Software. I am no longer working at Off-Brand Games. People were attacking all of the games we were publishing and trying to mass review bomb them. You can dislike the things I say, but this kind of behavior is unhinged. Learned a lot there, accomplished a lot, hope they succeed regardless. Now, taking a look at Off-Brand Games over on Steam here, and they've got about 3 different games. There's Rivals of Aether 2 and also 2 different demos here. And looking at the reviews of each, and I don't see any evidence of review bombing. For example, arguably their biggest game here, Rivals of Aether 2, has a mostly positive review score overall, and recent reviews are also mostly positive. And then scrolling down to the reviews, and I see a lot of positives, but I do see a few negatives. This review here was from June 11th, and they've got over 135 hours in the game and say the game is bland. This negative review here is from towards the end of June, and they don't like the online component. I mean, taking a look at the charts here, and I don't see any signs of review bombing. In fact, quite the opposite. I mean, the most negative reviews were from back in October of 2024. And most recently, there's an influx of positive reviews, so I'm not quite sure what they're talking about. Another off-brand games here is Bonnie Bear Saves Frog Time Demo, which has a very positive review score, and it came out mid-June. And taking a look here, it seems a lot of these reviews, the people receive the product for free, so that's a little bit hard to tell what's good and what's not. But again, if I take a look at the overall charts here, there's nothing that suggests review bombing. Now, for reference, this is where graphs can be deceiving based on how they're displayed. I mean, taking a look here, you can see just the red bar going down for most recent reviews. But that is one negative review. That's not like there's 1,000 of them. There's literally just one. And there's no positive reviews on this for a number of days. No reviews in general for a number of days. So taking a look at that most recent negative review, and this is interesting. So here's what the review says. I came here after Pirate Software said people were review bombing off-brand games titles. I'm disappointed both in the lack of review bombing and in the game. The review goes on to talk about the game and the disappointment in the game, not necessarily review bombing, but someone who tested out the game. And I would say this is a legitimate negative review. And here is the last game for Off-Brand Games, and that's the Aethermancer demo. Now this one is a little bit more interesting because overall it's got an overwhelmingly positive review score, with just very positive as the recent reviews. I don't see anything negative here overall, and with this few amount of views I would assume this is not review bombing. And taking a look at the reviews, let's look at the negative ones and the charts. So again, looking at these charts, there's absolutely nothing here that I see that suggests review bombing. I mean, we've looked at review bombing in previous videos from AAA games, and it's very evident when something is being review bombed. This is telling me a completely different story. Now, interestingly, again, these reviews are flooded with people who received the product for free. And interestingly, even people who received the product for free are giving it negative reviews. Overall, overwhelmingly positive and very positive recently. But looking at the negative reviews, and these are from people who received the product for free. And they also seem to be legitimate reviews. I don't see anything in here that suggests that this is part of the Pirate Software comments. Could be wrong here, but I don't really think so. These seem to be critical reviews of the game. Even more interestingly here, Ludwig, who is one of the main people behind Off-Brand Games, says Stop Killing Games is a good initiative, but a few bad actors review bombed and harassed developers of the games we support at Off-Brand Games. Appreciate Thor stepping down for the betterment of the devs and their games. Again, I haven't seen anything to suggest review bombing. So from my understanding, there were a number of people who pointed this out and didn't see any signs of review bombing, and Pirate Software, I guess, goes on to clarify the matter. For those trying to say this is now somehow a lie, the abuse was across socials, people on Discord, Twitter, Reddit, and some reviews on Steam. Interestingly, they say now some reviews on Steam before they were saying review bombing. Anyways, indie games are fragile things, and attacks like that hit hard. Overall sentiment was to bash the games and the developers working on them to try to get back at me. Not worth bringing them down for my opinion. Also, stop it. Get some help. Now, I'm not debating on the seriousness of the issue. I mean, we've seen this time and time again from other areas where some people will even receive death threats from people who are not happy with the situation. But this is, I'm not letting Pirate Software off the hook completely for this, because they say mass review bomb, and then later on they say some. So there's a huge difference between mass review bomb and some bad reviews. And it's almost like they're moving the goalposts a little bit and shaping the argument a little bit to maybe change it to be in their favor. Again, not denying that there was probably some backlash towards them, or a lot of backlash towards them. But at the same time, the angle here that they took, I don't think was the right one. Furthermore, Pirate Software goes on to say, the most interesting narrative is that my videos somehow killed the initiative. This graph shows that the initiative already had a downward trend in interest when my videos dropped. My videos do not seem to have had any impact on the movement at all. Making me the villain did though. Best of luck with your next steps. And then taking a look at the graph they showed, I would say it shows that PewDiePie was the one who really brought up the initiative. I could be wrong about that. Again, graphs can be deceiving and whatever, but taking a look here, it really looks like PewDiePie was the big one to have that impact. Now, based on this context alone, and maybe I'm going to be wrong with this, and if I am, let me know in the comments below, and just let me know your thoughts about the entire situation. But based on this context alone, it just seems that Pirate Software or Thor keeps digging themselves a hole. I don't know why they're taking this approach, trying to maybe move the goalposts or squirm a little bit to make it look less bad, or to try to dodge accountability for being wildly unpopular, or trying to take credit for the campaign succeeding. It's a very weird approach. It's obviously generating quite a bit of buzz online, and maybe that's why they're doing it. It's really weird overall, but I don't know here. I mean, I'm not a PR expert, but I assume that there were better ways to handle this situation overall. And this narrative that they're trying to craft, I don't think it's the right one to do. I do think it's super unfortunate that all of this costs Thor his role over at Off-Brand Games. But just taking a look at the overall narrative of the review bombing, I mean, both from Ludwig and from Pirate Software, Thor, and mass review bombing at that. And the fact that I didn't see anything and not a lot of people seem to see a whole lot of review bombing. It's a very weird situation overall. Because I will say here, the only review bombing that I have seen is not for Off-Brand Games, but for Pirate Software themselves. So Pirate Software, you may or may not realize and probably are well aware that they did publish a game here and develop a game called Heartbound. It is on Steam. It's got a mostly positive overall review score, but the recent reviews are overwhelmingly negative. Now, taking a look at these charts, and this is what I would say review bombing looks like. I mean, you can see a whole bunch of positive reviews, and then all of a sudden the reviews just went down. And looking at these reviews, they don't necessarily seem to be the simple, hey, you said something unpopular, we like Stop Killing Games, and therefore we're giving you a negative review. They seem to be relatively constructive negative reviews, at least some of them. I mean, here's kind of what I'm talking about. I've seen a lot of reviews here talking about the fact that this game is still in early access after such a long period of time. I mean, it came out in 2017, it's now 2025. However, this person only has 1.5 hours in the game. And they say, I bought this game when I was in middle school, and now I'm in college, and it's still not even remotely close to being done. But they've only played it for 1.5 hours. And I mean, look at this review here. This game feels more like a tool to boost the developer's streaming career than a genuine work in progress. For an early access title, there's no proper feedback channel to communicate with the developer. Any feedback that isn't glowing seems to get banned, and the developer comes across as dismissive, acting like they know best. I bought this to support a promising project, hoping for a finished game, but it's becoming an ego-driven showcase for one person, disappointing. And they've only got about a half hour into it. But I don't know here, maybe this muddies the water a little bit, and maybe this is what Pirate Software was talking about when they were talking about review bombing, although it seemed like they were talking about off-brand games, and the fact that Ludwig also said the same thing. Maybe the separation between the two is warranted, and that makes sense to not confuse Pirate Software with off-brand games. I could be wrong. Who the heck knows here? It just seems like a very weird situation. Let's just leave it at that. But anyways, moving on from that and still talking about killing games. Next up, we're talking about Anthem. And if you're a fan of Anthem, you're not going to like this update from EA. So here's what they say, and this announcement's right on their website. And if you're interested and wanted to learn more about it, like everything we talk about, links are in the description below right at the bottom. I don't hide my sources. But they say here, we have an important update to share regarding Anthem. After careful consideration, we will be sunsetting Anthem on January 12th, 2026. This means that the game will still be playable online for the next 180 plus days. And as of today, you can no longer purchase in-game premium currency, but you can still use your remaining balance until the servers go offline. There's an FAQ on their website if you wanted to learn more about it. For example, how long will I have to play Anthem? Game servers will be available until January 12th, 2026, at which time the game will no longer be playable. And why can't I play Anthem in offline mode? Anthem was designed to be an online-only title, so once servers go offline, the game will no longer be playable. Furthermore, how long will the game stay on EA Play? Anthem will be removed from the EA Play playlist on August 15th, 2025. And has anyone else at BioWare been affected by these changes? No, the sunsetting of Anthem has not led to any layoffs. And speaking about games shutting down, next up we're talking about Romero Games and some very unfortunate news. Now, we had talked about mass layoffs in yesterday's video, and we've been talking about it for quite a while as game companies seem to keep reporting more and more layoffs. And Romero Games has been impacted. So here's their announcement up on Twitter. We have some difficult news to share. Last night we learned that our publisher has canceled funding for our game, along with several other unannounced projects at other studios. This was a strategic decision made at a high level within the publisher, well above our visibility or control. We deeply wish that there had been something, anything we could have done to prevent this outcome. This absolutely isn't a reflection of our team's work, performance, or the quality of the project itself. We hit every milestone on time, every time, consistently received high praise, and easily passed all our internal gates. We are incredibly proud of the work being done and of the talented team behind it, the best we've worked with. We're currently evaluating next steps and working quickly to support our team. Many of us have worked together for more than a decade, some for over 20 years. It's an extremely difficult day, and we're heartbroken that it's come to this. If you know of any opportunities or ways you can help our incredible team, please reach out. Thank you to everyone who's offered support and kindness and encouragement during this difficult time. My hope here is that they can use their reputation to hopefully get picked up by another publisher. Who knows, maybe someone like Off-Brand Games. to help continue on fund this project and help the project see the light of day. I'm hopeful for Romero Games, but I do think the odds are stacked against them at this point in time, as I believe their publisher was Microsoft. So to find a publisher as big as Microsoft able to fund this may prove to be extremely challenging, but who knows. And on a side note here, in addition to Xbox being arguably heavily criticized for the recent layoffs, well, it also seems that they're being criticized even further here, as their executive producer at the Xbox Game Studios Publishing suggested for the people laid off to use AI to help them. So in a now deleted post, I believe, over on LinkedIn, well, here it is, and it's been preserved online, and this person, Matt Turnbull, suggests to use ChatGPT or Copilot to help reduce the emotional and cognitive load that comes with job loss. I think Brandon here does a good job of summing up the sentiment that I've seen from the community overall. Something I've realized over time is people in general lack the ability to think in a broader scope and include context and eventualities. But after thousands of people get laid off from your company, maybe don't suggest they turn to the thing you're trying to replace them with for solace. And continuing to talk about bad news, but maybe in a different context here. Next up, we're talking about Anker. And we had talked about Anker a while back, a few weeks back, when they issued a recall for one of their power banks. And anyways, here it appears that Anker is issuing recalls now for 5 more. I'd recommend checking out the XDA developers article for more information on the matter, and I believe they have links right to Anker on there. But anyways, the 5 new models that have been recalled are A1257, A1647, A1652, A1681, and A1689, and that's in addition to A1263. So from my understanding, they have identified a potential manufacturing issue involving lithium-ion battery cells, and the likelihood of malfunction is considered minimal, but obviously worthy of a recall. And I would say the timing of this is very unfortunate, as they've recently been promoting some of their huge battery banks. But shifting from negative to positive news, and next up we're talking about Jet Set Radio. And I would say this is a big win for game preservation. There's a brand new video up on YouTube called G-Set Radio Dreamcast Early US Prototype Trailer. And this is from July 31st, 2000. So they say the July 31st, 2000 prototype of Jet Set Radio Dreamcast features a debug menu and cheats that make it easier to explore. Content exclusive to America was mid-development, with preliminary versions of Bantam Street and Grind Square. This build also provides a better understanding of the localization and translation process for a video game. Now, I don't know about you, but I find this stuff super interesting, and if you're interested in this prototype and wanted to learn more about it, you can check out the video as well as the link in that description for even more information and possibly even a link to the preserved ROM. And speaking about videos on YouTube, next up we're talking about Launchbox, which is an emulation front end. And Launchbox version 13.22 has just dropped, and well, there's a whole bunch of new features here and improvements, and there is a video going over everything in detail. In my opinion here, some of the big highlights are surrounding retro achievements. They say new feature, Launchbox can now auto log into retro achievements for supported emulators like RetroArch, Dolphin, and PCSX2. On top of that, they say that supported emulators now have a retro achievement section with login options and hardcore toggle. And they've added a quick access retro achievements login. On top of that, there's improvements to tracking and even more. And they say here, auto import now supports non-emulated platforms such as Windows. I would say that this is a pretty big update for Launchbox, and the last previous update was towards the end of April. And speaking about new releases, last up here, we're talking about Mesa Turnip drivers. So if you've got a mobile device with a Snapdragon CPU and obviously an Adreno GPU, you might like this one, provided it's not a Snapdragon 8 Elite. And that's a story for another day. You're going to have to keep waiting. Anyways, Mesa Turnip drivers version 25.2.0 revision 12 have just dropped. And I don't think I need to point this out, but it is worth saying performance with custom drivers will vary from device to device, from game to game, and from emulator to emulator or app to app. So there's probably going to be a lot of testing just to see what works with certain setups. And last up here, as a bonus piece of news, we're talking about the PS5 Pro. And if you've got a PS5 Pro, you might be excited it may be getting an upgrade in 2026. And that's surrounding the GPU and how it does things. This is being reported over on Tom's Guide, and from my understanding, it is specific to the PS5 Pro and not the standard PS5 or PS5 Slim. But I guess here that PlayStation is working on implementing an advanced graphics upscaling algorithm for the PS5 Pro that should deliver better performance than its existing PSSR. We'll have to wait and see on that one, but I'm assuming that it's not going to be an upgrade that you have to go out and buy, but it will be a software update to existing PS5 Pros, and it should hopefully be seamless. There's a lot more covered in that interview in the article, and I'd recommend giving it a read because it's not just all about upscaling. But I am very curious to see how this new upscaling tech works for the PS5 Pro and how it performs against the existing stuff, and also against DLSS and FSR. Who knows? But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. The legendary One Fluff is currently cuddling with Mrs. Sujano, and I'm not about to disturb them. We talked about a bunch today. Feel free to discuss anything we talked about in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate, save your state.